Good afternoon and welcome to the Gold Goats and Gun Short News here on YouTube and D Live. My name is Tom Luongo. We've got a lot to talk about. Today is Sunday, the 19th of May, 2019, and we're about, 4 days before the European elections open. So we're into it now, right? I was doing my twice weekly market report I do on Sundays and Wednesdays for my patrons over Patreon, and was talking about that all morning. This is the week we've been waiting for God, 6-7 months now. I've been just focused like a laser on this period in time now for months, and and now we're here, and now we're in it, and it's time for us to deal with what's happening, right? It's time. We're now in it, right? And staring us in the face. And spent most of this morning writing a blog post talking about how Russia has maneuvered themselves into a very good position coming up onto the European parliamentary elections and the next couple of months as we move towards the G20 and all these other things that are happening. But I want to specifically talk about what's happening in Austria. This thing with a Freedom Party leader Heinz Christian Straka is really disturbing. It's very obviously a setup, and we're going to have the Austrian government fall, and it's going to be. And there's going to be snap elections called. We've already seen this happen. So I'm going to go over this real quick. That the leader of the Freedom Party, which is the third party in Austrian politics, and which has been dominated by the Social Democrats and the Sebastian Kurz. Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. Their party for years, and Kurz won basically the Conservatives, and Kurz won a majority in the last election and was able to form a coalition government with the FPO, which has been rising in popularity on the back of anti-immigration and Euroscepticism and all of the same things that all the other countries that we're seeing all across the rest of Europe, right? So in Marine Le Pen in France and Salvini in Europe, in Italy and elsewhere, right? So this was significant because, from what I understand, the FPO locally is consistently portrayed as a literal Nazi party, and so it's like the way Alternative for Germany is portrayed in Germany. It's the way Matteo Salvini is always portrayed outside of Italy, right? So so a video emerges a week before the parliamentary elections and showing Straka and his whip effectively negotiating, about taking over newspapers and all this other stuff. And it's so obviously a honeypot when you look at it at the end of the day. And this is very much a honeypot that was set up with some nephew or niece of a Russian oligarch, which is the way it's being portrayed, which is nonsense. She's probably an American, for Christ's sake, to be honest with you. And it's so very obvious. The question is, if this is a honeypot and this was designed to break this coalition, the big question is why? Now, we're on the verge of European parliamentary elections. The people who run Europe are some of the most vile and mean people on the planet. They're absolutely terrible people. People like Juncker and Soros and Guy Verhofstadt and Tusk and Merkel and the rest of them. So I'm not, and by the way, I am not in any way kind of making excuses for Straka here, okay? He got caught red-handed doing something dumb, all right? So he's going to get, he's already gotten what he's deserved. I'm not interested in that, though. I mean, I'm not interested in whether or not it's you know, it's a shame or not, because it is what it is. He was dumb enough to go to this meeting. He was dumb enough to like do to get these things, to openly negotiate like this and get caught on tape. And then, oh look, a week before European parliamentary elections, they bring this thing out and crash the Austrian government. He deserves everything he gets. Okay, this is going to destroy the FPO for a decade, easy. And so don't misunderstand. But I want you to think about this really carefully. Sebastian Kurz is a very interesting character. He's not somebody who I've been all that enamored of, but he's been he's like Erdogan. He's a guy who knows how to keep his feet on both sides of the fence and then shift with the political wind. And he shifted towards the Eurosceptics as they rose toward power, gave them some power, said all the right things, and then 24 hours after, less than 12 hours after this tape hits, Straka resigns. The government's been dissolved, and we're going to call for snap elections. And then within another 24 hours after that, Kurz is out there calling for a new Lisbon Treaty to have a better framework with which to punish anybody who gets out of line within EU rules. Think he's going to continue to toe the Eurosceptic party line? I don't think so. So this was an easily coordinated hit by the usual suspects, and in my mind, this has got the US and the UK written all over it, with some help from Germany. Okay, and the Germans are now, if you look at what's going on, the Germans are now running a massive anti-Russian campaign, an anti-corruption campaign on the eve of the parliamentary elections now. So we're in it now, right? The stakes have now been risen, and when this is just indicative of what's going on and how they will persecute and go after each of the major political figures in each of these countries to try and take them down. They've already gone after Salvini for freaking kidnapping. The Sicilian court tried to try him for kidnapping for holding migrants on a boat. Marine Le Pen is facing jail time at some point this year in a prosecution over some ISIS-related tweets from 5 years ago. I mean, it's insane. So this is nothing new, okay? And it's a warning to everybody that if you attempt to upset the apple cart in Europe and you attempt to stop the long march towards ultimate EU integration, you will be crushed, you will be marginalized, you will be vilified, and you have to have the courage of your convictions to be vilified, hated, stepped on, and destroyed. There's no doubt in my mind that this is going to get worse before it gets better. I was just trolling through my Twitter feed for the first time in days, looking up what's the situation with Brexit. I hadn't really been looking. Well, guess what? Nigel Farage, that great interview, that great thing that we saw the other day with Nigel Farage kind of telling the BBC guy to go take a hike as he was walking through streets, and the guy kept hounding him, asking him about money from what the hell's his name? Aaron Banks. Crazy that this went on, and Farage was like, I'm not talking about this. This is not important. It's just the same thing that Andrew Marr did, a Sunday before, yada, 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 trying to drum up this scandal that now Farage didn't declare $475,000 in gifts from somebody, from Aaron Banks. It's all going to get personal now. It's all going to go as deep as they can to try and destroy the individuals, because they have to make this personal. They've got to destroy the heroes of the Eurosceptics and anybody who thinks that they're going to get out of line. Okay? It's why they talk about Viktor Orban in the most ridiculous, over-the-top terms imaginable. It's apparently how they treat the FPO in Austria. And we're going to see more of this. And it's going to get worse. And it's going to get... And the whole process, the whole project is going to get more and more... vituperative, I think is the best word, but vitriolic is the best word that came into my head. And I know that's not what I wanted. It's like venal. It's really just awful. And it's a V-Day because, when you start talking about these people, those are the only words that can come out of your mouth. So it's just crazy and it's just sad, but it's par for the course. There's no way to spin this as a good outcome for Euroskeptics. Oh, I'm sure that we could probably get smoke blown up our asses by Steve Turley, who I like, but, come on. This is not a good outcome here. But they're desperate, and this just shows how desperate they are, and buy some swag. Like, come on. This is bad. They took a guy down in 24 hours. But they've been holding this thing for 2 years. So now the question comes, what else have they got? If the best that they have with Nigel Farage is a couple £100,000 worth of quote unquote undeclared gifts, that shouldn't make a difference at this point. But you can see how desperate they are to try and hold these numbers back and to hold back the dam. They don't have any other options. I mean, I'll be happy to say that, but I'm not going to sit here and say that this isn't bad. Okay. So, now at the same time, what I also find interesting, this is a short so far, only like 10 minutes. I don't have a lot more to say than this, but at the same time, I think it's really quite interesting to note what else happened this weekend. On, what's today, 19th? So on Friday, the resolution is going through PACE, the Parliamentary Authority for the Council of Europe, that Russia is going to have its voting rights reinstalled, or at least they're going to consider it, they're going to vote on it, which is something that they haven't been willing to talk about for a long time. And for those of you who don't know, Russia had its voting rights stripped in the Council of Europe after the Crimean referendum to rejoin Russia. This is all part of that. This is all fallout from the putsch in Kiev and all of that stuff. It just shows me that the dam is starting to break on this policy that's been put in this place, this Cold War policy that's been put in place. Now that Trump has gone completely loony around the fucking bend on sanctions, tariffs, all of it. We've got the U.S. Senate trying to sanction the pipe layers and the insurance companies, thanks to Ted Cruz and Gene Shaheen. A match made in hell if I ever saw one. For anybody involved with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, we're trying desperately to stop Nord Stream 2 at the last possible moment. The Germans are like, and the Russians are like, well, we've already spent 80% of the money. It's already spent. And by the way, Gazprom's making money hand over fist. We just raised our dividend by 80% over last year. So this isn't going to scare anyone, and it's not going to stop anything, because Germany is going to get its pipeline. The Danes are not going to hold up a permit, the last permit for Nord Stream 2, for 5 years, no matter what these people think they think they're going to get done. So have I seen the new tweets from Trump? I really try not to look at Trump's tweets. They make me angry, Robbie. So when we're looking at what's happening here, it's very obvious that Europe has got to finally make some decisions about what their future is going to look like vis-a-vis Russia and vis-a-vis their own internal problems. So, and I want you to watch that carefully. If not, please do me a favor, go over to my blog at tomluongo.me. I just posted a big article explaining like the last 5 years worth of history relative to all of this stuff and how it does really in some ways bear on what's happening in Europe today. All right. So I have not seen the latest Trumps from the tweets from Trump, Robbie. Was he tweeting like Iran is North Korea? Of course he's doing that. This is Donald Trump. He has no filter. Every words are tactics. Excuse me. He's insane. He's a terrible president. And what else is new? Hi, Semench is asking, do I have any insight into Iraq? There seems to be a lot of rumblings of something going on there. Something. Okay, so apparently there was an old Soviet rocket fired in from a field into the green zone of the embassy we have in Baghdad. Nobody was hurt. It's not even all that impressive. All of this is just more kind of really amateurish, provocation stuff going on with to try and draw the Iranians into a conflict. And the Iranians keep saying over and over again, look, we're not going to have a war unless the U.S. wants one, because we're not going to start one. The U.S. is trying really hard to shore up support for what's happening here in Iraq, and Iraq is not going for it. There's still a bill going through the Iraqi parliament to remove the Americans' invitation. Yes. I don't know I don't know if it's going to pass, and I don't know that it's going to happen, right? There's a lot going on. I was reading some great stuff from Elijah Magnier the other day about this, and forgive me, I don't have it all committed to memory off the top of my head. I have to go back and do some notes and organize myself on it. But there's a lot. I did actually, not just Elijah Magnier, but a variety of other sources the other day as well, to try and get a handle on what's happening, to see how close they are to actually throwing the Americans out. And I don't think they're very close. I think the current PM is trying to keep everybody from getting angry with each other. He's really trying to walk a fine line between all the different factions, because between the Shia militias and the U.S. and everybody else, in order to try and get Iraq under control and moving forward. They don't want to be used by the United States as a staging area for attack on Iran, and they don't want Iran to be using Iraq as a battleground to carry out what's the word I'm looking for? Asymmetric attacks against the Americans, to try and get the Americans to go home. So there's that's what I think is really happening, right? There's a lot going on there. And so Iraq is now the man in the middle on this. And Pompeo, I don't think, got anything of what he wanted when he went there when he went to Baghdad recently. I think he got him a lot of what I just said, that they're not interested in supporting either of you. Why don't, we are Iraq and we're independent on this. We're going to continue to buy energy from Iran. We're going to continue to do a lot of the things that we're going to do. We're still going to have a relationship with them, but we're not going to tolerate, we're at the same time, we're not going to tolerate, Iraqi militia and Iraqi saboteurs, Iranian militias and Iranian saboteurs, screwing with with American troops there. It's just not going to happen. So we're not going to be happy about it. So yeah, Glocks are made in. Yeah, so El Vaquero was asking me, Night of the Long Glocks, like Glock Model 40s? Well, Glocks are Austrian guns. Did you not know that? So this was all about, it was to play on, a political coup happening in Austria. Yes, just like in Glocks in general. Remember, and from what I understand, the Glock family has got a lot of ties to the FPO. FYI. So it's interesting to note that there's still a lot of machinations happening behind the scene. The Americans are trying desperately to hold on to using Europe as the tip of the spear in order to do their bidding in their pressure campaigns against Iran and Russia. I don't think any of that's going to work. You got to realize at a certain level that, and the Chinese and the Russians have made it abundantly clear in the last couple of weeks, that they're not going to abandon Iran. If anything, it's going to be, they're going to work harder to keep the relationship working and to defy the Americans on this, because they really feel quite strongly that the Americans don't have the right to unilaterally tell people who can and who cannot trade with anybody else. And if they were to give in here, they would be done. And there's no way that, for example, there's no way that China would be able to guarantee any of their investments in BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, or anything else that they're trying to accomplish around the world, if they fold to the Americans on buying Iranian oil. Jonathan's asking what new coalition will form in Austria. I don't think that'll happen if the People's Party will wind up with a majority. The Social Democrats are still out of favor. The FPO should collapse in popularity, and Kurz is looking to consolidate power, is what's going to happen. And so Euroscepticism has crested, at least officially, in Austria as of right now. All right. Let's see. That's about 21 minutes. I don't think I have anything else to say. I think that sounds like a stream. It's a little shorter than normal, but it's okay. I didn't have a lot to say this afternoon. I have a lot more coming up. So I think that'll do. You guys, if you like what you heard today, as always, please give a like and subscribe down below. Do the thing. Sign up to the YouTube channel. Check out the blog over at goldgoatsandguns.com, please. If you like what you hear, go over to Patreon. The Patreon service is $4 a month for the twice weekly market reports, where I do a lot of this, but with more meat on the bones in terms of how it pertains to movements in markets and all the things along those lines, as well as the Gold Goats and Guns investment newsletter, where I save my best material for behind the paywall. So if you like what you see publicly, you can imagine how good that is. All right, that's what I've got for today. If we'll be back again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. We'll be back here, and as well as every Friday night at 8:30 as well. That should do. You guys take care. Have a great afternoon. Keep your stick on the ice.